And what is going on, everybody? It's Brad, aka the Monster Truck Canucker, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Crush This, a Monster Truck podcast. I'm back after about 2 weeks off, dealing with some family stuff, and not gonna lie, 2 weeks ago I was dead tired from work, working in plus 35 degrees Celsius, which is around 91, 92 degrees Fahrenheit. Is not fun for 12 hours, so I was dead exhausted, and Cheech was so gracious to be able to do the podcast for the last 2 weeks. And, I thank him for understanding. And, Cheech is the man. Cheech is, one of the driving force behind the podcast, gets all our guests. So, Cheech, you are the man. Guys, this is going to be an awesome episode. We have Joe Pagano from the Wheel Jamboree under new ownership. It's going to be awesome to talk to him about what his plans are for the Wheel Jamboree. They just had the event, I believe, not this past weekend, but the weekend before in Bloomsburg, which Cheech was at. So we're going to hear all about that, what happened with the Wheel Jamboree and everything going on with that. And guys, Crush This is brought to you by J Concepts. J Concepts has always been one of our longest supporters. Check out them right there. Use our code Crush This at jconcepts.net for 15% off all items. J Concepts, Jason Rona, Fred Reap, those guys are doing some awesome stuff. Cheech is sponsored by them. Josh Rhodes, so many of our buddies are sponsored by J Concepts, so go check them out. Go check out our merch store on Spreadshop. It's right at the bottom there. New designs are coming. I know I've been saying that for a while, but I'm kind of refocused right now. A lot of big changes in my life. I'm down 45 pounds from a year ago. So mentally, I'm doing a lot better. Got on some medication, so doing a lot better. So go check that out. Crush This at monstertruck./po at myspreadshop.com. Go check out Monster Truck Attitude on Facebook and YouTube. Thursday Night Thunder. Steve Jones doing all that cool stuff. The diecast Monster Truck Racing. Love watching it. I was able to be a part of it recently. Beat Cheech in first round, so I know he wants his redemption eventually. He's rolling his eyes at me in the background there. And then go check out our buddy Bryce Kenny's book, Geared for Life, Making a Shift for Your Potential. Cheech. Okay, I'm going to bring you on, Cheech. Quickly, do what you were doing.
Next time, liquid death on you.
But go check out Bryce Kenny's book. It's such a great book. Me and Cheech have both read the digital version. A lot of good tips in there. And lastly, but not least, go check out limslikeme.org. That is, I'm having a brain fart right now. Why am I having a brain fart? Colvinard's organization. Go check that out. If you need more info, lminfo@limslikeme.org. So go check that out. Go check out what Cole's doing. And guys, so we're going to get into our talk with Joe Pagano, and stay tuned, guys. It's going to be a good one. So here we go.
This isn't your typical motorsports podcast. You're listening to Crush This, a monster truck podcast presented by High Octane Coffee and J Concepts. A show where we take you inside the minds of your favorite drivers, past and present, of the monster truck industry. And now, your hosts, Brad Shaw and Dan Cheech. Buckle in. The show starts now.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Cheech here. Sorry about this. My internet's down. Stupid. This time it's Frontier's fault, so we're using AT&T as my balance there. But welcome, fans. How's it going? I am gonna post after the show the day 22 of July's helmets of 31 helmets of July, and I can't read that.
It says
What does
blame
it say?
Frontier.
Yes, blame Frontier, stupid Frontier. I may go to MediaCon, but man, before we start off anything, I had a huge weekend of racing.
Yes, you did.
Last week was excellent. Friday night there was midgets and micro sprints at the Champaign County Fair, and two classes of racing right there. A bunch of those cars. Saturday went to Maple Park, Illinois, to see some monster truck throwdown. I saw John Kohler, Jim Kohler's son, win 2 out of the 3 events there with his truck Megabyte. Bad day for Brad Shipper, though. He rode over left and right, broke the rear steer Saturday night, and then Sunday went to the Brickyard. Saw the Brickyard 400, Indianapolis, Indiana, the Motor Speedway, all day affair. Woke up at 5 in the morning, got there, park in turn 3, met Eric Myers, Morgan Kane, got tons of merchandise from there. Got a t-shirt, book, saw Jeff Gordon's first car there. Fantastic showing, even though there was some controversy at the end. I think everyone knew about that, about what happened when Brad Keselowski pulled off, and then the 5 car moves in front. Didn't give Ryan Blaney the chance to pick. And then at the very end, Ryan Priest, he was stopped for maybe a whole lap, and they finally gave the yellow flag. So I there's some controversy there and whatnot, and I guess there's an investigation going on now about it because of what the pool and stuff like that's going on. But outside of that, was a wonderful. Actually, it was a very, very good 2 weeks. And then tomorrow at the Champaign County Fair, we're having monster truck racing. It's going to be Hall Brothers 3 trucks and Gardner's 2 trucks. So it's a pretty good lineup for a small fair show. Come out 7 o'clock, 4 o'clock pit party, $10 for a ticket. That's cheaper than the parking pass at any racing venue. I know the parking pass I paid for was $25, so that could have got you 2 tickets and a kid. So hey, it is what it is. Help support the fair. There's gonna be a ride truck there too. They're gonna use the money for the ride truck to fundraise Kessler Hall. That's a hall over there for the 4-H people. They redo that and light up the building and everything like that. So that's gonna be pretty cool. So once again, guys, that's a little bit of a catch-up for me there. But we're going to talk about our guest here. What an awesome week 2 weeks ago. The old clan, but they're bringing it back, the glory that they saved. Man, it was a fun weekend there, Joe. How you been there?
It really was a fun weekend. I know the crews rolled in on a Monday. They started setting the show up, and I flew in on a Thursday, and we had a blast. We had a great interview with you, talking about the Hall Brothers Racing. A lot of people. We had over 1,014 or a little better trucks on a Friday, and that's more than it's been for the whole weekend in years past. The vendors were back. We're still working on vendors, but I was so excited when I got up on that stage, and it had been 3 years since I announced Bloomsburg. Got up on that stage and started in. We start with the national anthem every morning, and to welcome the crowd, it was just amazing. The crowd was great. I mean, you had some great clubs there. Sky High Rides brought in over 200 trucks just in their club.
With the jamborees, growing up in the 90s, watching Trucks and Tractor Power in the Penda series, that was a huge thing, always hearing about it, always, seeing how amazing the events are. And if you look in the background, I was able to go to the Indie Jamboree, I believe it was 2022. Talk about the significance of the Jamborees. I know you've been around the Jamborees for a long time. How did you see the significance of it, bringing it back to the old ways that you guys had recently in Bloomsburg?
Well, let me start back at the beginning. I started as an operations person in 1993. You were talking about the Pin to Point series. Heck, I used to set those things up. I was the operations guy on the ground. Then after a couple of years, they asked me, do you want to go into announcing? So I said, sure, I'll try it. And it's been, 20, I think this is my 29th year behind the mic. What had happened is family events or special events or the promotion company, whatever name you want to use, sold back a few years ago for a lot of money to a company called Bonnier, which is a magazine conglomerate. I believe they're based out of Sweden. And I remained friends with one of the guys. I worked about half a season for him. And I got a call back in September, I believe. And it's not only that show, but other shows. I've always been a fan of flea markets. And I'll get there eventually. I've always been a fan of flea markets, and they said, hey, do you want to buy these 2 flea markets that we have? And I said, sure. So I bought them, then had buyer's remorse, and got together with we call him the old crew, Mike Moore, who was the president of the promotion company. He's the president now of Events Inc. Christy, the accountant, me, Megan and Leonard, they were the host club in Indianapolis for 25 years. Eric Rawls, was our events manager, and our, box office Karen. We all got together, and Bonnier said, hey, we need this much money plus. Well, we got together and took some investors in, and that's how we got together creating the Jamborees. They called back in December. And I turned them over to Mike Moore, our president, and I said, hey, they want to sell the Jamborees. Well, I'll tell you a quick story. Mike came back to me after about a month and said, we're done. We're not doing any more negotiation. We're done. And he goes, I'm going to send him an email in the morning. I said, give me 24 hours, Mike. So 24 hours later, he calls me back. He goes, damn, now we own 2 Jamborees. So that's how we got back into it. It's, like I said, the old crew, the people that loved it, and we wanted to bring tradition back. We had some people in Bloomsburg, some trucks that hadn't been there in 10 years. First thing we did is and Cheech, you're going to laugh a little about this. First thing we did is picked up the phone and called the Hall brothers and say, we own the Jamboree, what can you do? And Mark and Tim said, we'll be there. And they put on a great show. We had a lot of good monster trucks there. But I was on the stage. I was not doing competition announcing for this show like I usually do. I was on the stage where all the show trucks were, where the vendors were. I could do interviews. We played games, family games. And there was just so many people. And if you've seen any comments on Facebook, social media, anywhere, I don't think I've seen a bad one yet.
No, not at all. And it just Jeff Bursey last week told us he saw something he hasn't saw at the Jamboree since he was going there. And that was a line of participants waiting to get in at like 6 to 7 o'clock in the morning. Just chilling, waiting to get in and parade all night long. I had fans that come over to take a look at the display truck, and they said, we haven't had this much people the last 2 years in the parade. I think they said last year they didn't even have a parade. So that's very touching to hear about that. And Tim and Mark have been pushing a lot of people to try to make it to Indy this year, and go from there. So one question Dustin Parks was asking is, what was the one thing you missed the most at the Jamboree?
That I missed this year, or that I missed while I was gone?
While you were gone.
I I missed a lot of things. I missed interacting with the participants. I missed the kids coming up on stage and playing games. It was just a hollow spot for me. Like I said, when I hit that stage back in Bloomsburg, it all come rushing back. I was ecstatic to be there.
With the Jamborees the last couple of years, last year, they had Joe Sylvester doing the monster truck portion of it. Years previous, I'm not too sure who was kind of running that part. How important to you is the monster truck side of the Jamborees? Because when I was there in Indy in 2022, it was okay. Like it wasn't. They didn't do any racing. It was kind of like a best trick and freestyle deal at that point. How significant to you is the monster truck portion and bringing it back to how it used to be back in the 90s and the 2000s?
Oh yeah, it's very important. I mean, picture one of the four-wheel jamborees without monster trucks. It's not going to happen. There's the main portion of the company, Events Incorporated, is Mike Moore, Lee Collins, and Andy Miller. Now, Lee Collins has been around doing monster truck shows for many, many years, and he's the total competition director. What he says goes. When it comes to tough trucks or mud racing, we brought our old competition director back, Bruce Haberstich. So it was like not missing a beat. But you were talking about the Pin to Point series when Army Armstrong and Gary Lee were announcing those shows. That's the kind of vibe that we want to bring back. We want to, Snakebite. When Gene Patterson, he was the first one to jump on board. And he says, "What can I do?" And it's like, well, we don't know yet, but. And a lot of the old monster truck drivers that from times past, I would love to see Bigfoot back. But remember, we only got these shows into February 1st of March. So what we put together for Bloomsburg was in a 3-month period. And a lot of monster trucks were already booked.
Yeah, it was still a good lineup. I mean, for what you brought, I mean, the main field, the Hall brothers, War Wizard, seems like War Wizard's becoming a very common truck in the MOD series. You see that truck a lot. Jerry Beck's the two of Jerry Beck's trucks, and then you throw in Bad News and playing hooky for Bloomsburg. But for Indy, you're gonna throw out two of the one of the most growing and popular teams in the nation with Team Throttle Monster, and you're getting yourself some Kamikaze and Jurassic Attack for that show with some good drivers and stuff like that. So, I mean, for the last second bookings, I guess you may say you picked up some very good quality trucks in the busy, I guess, schedule you get. But there's so much room to grow that people are throwing ideas about, hoping that you guys can push to go to older venues like Lima or Canfield. And bringing back trucks, like we were talking last week, we love to see another monster truck corral like you guys did in the past. Just have trucks on display. They may not, if they want to race, have an open qualifying session. If you guys want to race, do that. If not, just chill and hang out. But what do you see your future plans at the Jamboree?
Well, all the monster trucks are brought in by Lee Collins. I've traveled around the country this year for MOD. Spent 3 or 4 days in Bozeman, Montana, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I went to Corbin, Kentucky, Madison, Wisconsin, announcing some of those. So I've seen some of the monster trucks. You were talking about Kamikaze and Toxic and some of those trucks. So we've worked with them most of, you call it the first quarter. But what do we see? Well, that may be more of a Mike Moore question, but what we see, I guess, from my standpoint is what we did in the past was correct. It was right. I want to see, some of the old games come back that we used to play. I want to see the monster truck corral. Now, personally, and I don't think it'll happen, but personally, I'd like to see them pay the monster trucks, $1,000 to show up, and then, you pay them X amount of dollars per round as they advance. That would be cool, but it's not realistic. I'd like to see a couple classes of mud racing come back. We probably won't see the 5 and 6 guys, that were going 2.2 seconds. We probably won't see those guys, but I would like to see class 1 through 4 go. We did do some mud bogging, if you noticed this past in Bloomsburg. So the mud bogging was sort of a favorite. If you go back to the Marion County Fairgrounds, that's what the monsters used to be in it. I don't know if any one of you guys go back that far, like an old guy like me, but they dug a big monster and had a cable hooked on each end with the tractor, and the monsters made it as far through the pit as they could.
I was recently at a Monster Jam show with Tim Hall, junior driver, who's driving Jurassic Attack for Team Throttle Monster. And I believe that's who's going to be in Indy. And I was telling him, when I was because I was there with the American Scout team and the Stomper team in 2022, walking around that fairgrounds, looking around like, man, that's where Andy Brass raced, all these legends. I told him, savor that moment, because even for me as a spectator, it was surreal being there. I feel like Indy is one of those bucket list events that any monster truck fan should go to because of the heritage. What can you say about, to the rest of the drivers and people that are coming to the Indy Fairgrounds for that event? Cheech has obviously been there with a few different teams. Like, how do you think Indy's going to go this year at the Jambo?
As much as we are proud of Bloomsburg, I think it'll be better in Indy. You're right, it is surreal. The drivers, when they use their eyes and shut the truck off, take that second just to realize where you are. Some of the top names in the industry have been on that track, and they have won. I mean, I can go back to days of Donnie Van Loo, what was he, Magnum Force?
Yeah.
And I can run back to those days. Andy Brass driving Wildfoot, Gene driving Snakebite. I mean, Bob Chandler. When we did all those shows back in the day in Indy, especially with the Pin to Point series, I was right next to Bob with a microphone, and he had old reel-to-reel doing timing. And he would go per frame second and figure out the time, and that's how we'd call out times. Probably won't go back that far, but I tell you, with some of the new equipment we've got, Lee Collins is heading this group up like you would not believe when it comes to competition.
Man, and going back to, you're having, the Hall brothers back in the stable, and a lot, the tough trucks, that's a sign right there that you guys are bringing back a group that makes the Jamboree their NASCAR. Their big series is when the Jamborees come around. I remember in 2012 or even 2018, there was, 8 monster trucks, 10 monster trucks, but there was 20 pro tough trucks and 10 stock classes. So the big waiting game for us wasn't track prep. It was waiting for the tough truck guys to be done. And seeing the diminished quantity of tough trucks that are there, like in Bloomsburg, with everything being positive, I won't be surprised at Indy if you're going to see a decent amount of those guys going full tilt boogie, because that's some of the best racing that I see all year, is those tough truck guys. So is that a goal for you guys also, to bring that back to its glory?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of people were gun shy, for lack of a better term. They didn't know what we were going to bring to the table. A lot of people were waiting to see how Bloomsburg went. And it was a little different. We were out shaking participants' hands, saying thank you. We were walking down vendor row, talking to all of our vendors and telling them thank you for being there. I mean, we really took that show to heart, and we're gonna go Indy even a little harder. I've talked to some of the vendors that potentially going to be in Indy, and I looked for a good show. Tough Trucks. It was a wait and see. I think now they've seen. So I think they'll show up in big force in Indy.
So earlier in during the show, you meant, so what year did you start with the Jamborees again?
1993.
Okay, so I have to ask this, being a diehard fan, Lyman 93, Andy
Yep.
Brass, Wildfoot, the
Yep.
infamous wheelie run.
Exactly. George Carpenter.
I want to get your viewpoint of that day and that run in particular, because that run is infamous in the monster truck community now.
George Carpenter was famous for building tracks. He put two 40-yard dumpsters upside down and put dirt up to them. And when Wildfoot was racing Andy, he hit it just right, and he run that stand, that wheel stand, all the way through to the next hill. I was probably 30 feet from him. I went, holy crap, I can't believe that just happened. And there was a lot of pictures of that, thankfully.
You know, it's always a highlight and stuff like that. You know, you had your group like the Hall brothers. You had Bigfoot. You had Barefoot, Caroline Crusher, Vaughters. You know, seeing those names, you know, seeing that there could be a potential, having Bigfoot back, Hall brothers, Mike Vaughters and his group, you know, could be a huge going. You know, one person, James Martin, wrong guy, wanted to know if you can, thank you, Brad, any plans in the future to expand older venues that held the Jamborees in the past, or maybe ideas of a new place?
We're looking for ideas of a new place. Everybody says, let's go back to Lima, let's go back to Lima. Well, they put a show right up against us in Wapakoneta, and that fairground, All Glaze County Fairgrounds, and they started letting people camp there. They started letting, you know, they were doing tug of trucks, and it just got to the point where neither one of us wanted to compete with each other. Cheech, you know, since you're in, especially with All Brothers Racing, it requires sponsorship. Somebody come up to us and say, hey, we'd like you to come to Davenport, Iowa. And we have a sponsor that wants to sponsor X amount of dollars. Well, we'd take a look at that real hard to see if it's feasible to produce a show in Quad Cities. I mean, that's purely an example. I go back to when we did shows in Kalamazoo, Lima, Westworld in Scottsdale, Arizona, Pueblo. We used to travel a lot of cities, but we had big sponsors, and that's what you need. You need to prove your worth first. Prove that you can produce a good show. Then I think everything will fall in line.
Now, one kind of era that I've always kind of been interested in is, you know, in the 2000s when Bob Chandler started Pro MT, and they had that whole Truxpo thing, which was basically a ripoff of what you guys were doing with the Jamborees. What was that time period like for you guys, seeing a competitor come up and take, you know, the main racing aspect, you know, the Pro MT with them and do their thing?
Well, I wasn't in on a lot of that, to be honest with you, but I did think it bothered us too much. We produced the same show that we always produce. We got the monsters, you know, we paid the monsters to come to our show, and you know, it was just a separate series. You know, you got a lot of separate series running around right now, but it was just a separate series to us. We didn't fight them, they didn't fight us. You know, we stayed friends through the whole thing, and I think it was a good series for Bob for a while.
You know, and another kind of interesting question. You guys, you know, we run a program called the Four Wheel Drive Jamboree. Have you guys ever talked in the works of bringing four-wheel drive pulling? You know, the four-wheel drive alcohol supercharged trucks, or the diesel trucks, to pull a sled or do something like tractor pulling type deal at the four-wheel drive Jamborees. Have you guys ever tried to talk about that?
We've thought about that. You know, one of the comments that we got was bring Dennis Anderson in King Sling and he's double seat. I'm thinking, Lord have mercy. Imagine Dennis, in Bloomsburg, he'd cut loose there. Uh, we used to do tug of trucks. And a lot of things got damaged on tug of trucks. We don't want people to tear their stuff up. But when you I remember one specifically, truck was tied to a Hummer H1, and that H1 ripped the rear end clean out of that other truck. And yeah, cool for the fans, but not too much fun for the truck owner. We've talked about a sled pull. It's that infield has something going just about every minute of the day at our jamborees. There's either mud bogging, mud racing, tough trucks, side-by-sides, or monster trucks running. There's very little time in the infield that's left, but, give and take, we might be able to put a sled in, but like I said, that's all Lee Collins.
Now, in Bloomsburg, you guys did an S track, which I think was really cool, utilizing, the different speedway layout that they've, adopted there in the last couple of years. What do you guys have possibly planned for Indy? Is it going to be a kind of return to tradition with straight line, or are you guys going to try to do something completely different there?
Lee won't let us know until he builds the track. I'm sorry. Once he starts grading that track, he'll go, oh, we're going to do it this way. He's got to get in. He's got to measure. He's got to check out the track and see what it'll hold. A lot of Indianapolis's infield's now asphalt because of all the parking and expansion that they did. So a little difficult to build a course there, but he'll take a look at it. I believe last time we raced in Indy, it was an S course.
Now,
Chicago
question.
Style. Yeah.
Prior to Bloomsburg, was there any pre-sale yet for Indianapolis? And then, if so, after Bloomsburg, did you see a huge increase in numbers on participants and people that are going to be there for Indy this year?
You're going to ask me that, and I missed the weekly meeting this week, so I do not know numbers. I can get them for you, and I'll text them to you later on so you can mention it in your next show. But
okay.
Yeah, I don't know any numbers. I have heard just from social media that the numbers have increased a bunch. But I just hope it works. We're still looking for a sponsor for Indy. We'll find one. And Cheech, unless you got a bunch of money, we can call it the Cheech Four-Wheel Jamboree. But, we'll make it. We will make it. And we will make it work correctly. I want our participants to be happy. Now, Cheech, as I was talking to you on stage in Bloomsburg, this is my personal opinion. And I told you, first year, you work on the participants. Second year, you work on the vendors. Third year, you work on the spectators, and it brings it all together. Oh. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that you guys have the old crew back together as well, because you guys have done this for a long time. You guys know what works, even though, it is 2024, but you guys have been there, seen it, have done it. And one thing that I think was really cool to be able to experience when I was in Indy was the parade, seeing people drive around all day, checking out the show trucks. Like, I remember one thing that stuck out to me is the Monster Truck Hall of Fame had a display with the original Equalizer. And I'm like, wait, I didn't expect to see this thing here. I love stuff like that.
I remember when Jeff brought a lot of that stuff down, and he brought it over to Lima for us too. The parade's great. I'll give you a little hint, Cheech. Do you go back far enough to remember when we took over the town of Bloomsburg and had parades uptown?
Yep. They talked about that a lot.
Look for that maybe to happen. They got a new mayor. They've got a new police chief. That was one of my things. Oh, my God, let's, on a Friday night, let's take all those participants and let's take those monster trucks and run them up through town. That'd be wonderful. Indy, you're going to be surprised how the fairgrounds have changed at Indy. My stage in particular is going, and calling it going back to tradition. I'm going way back in the back against the 4-H dorms, what State Fair uses as the free stage to put all their bands on. That's where we started, on the back side. So that's where our stage is going to be this year. Somebody asked me, would you ever consider going back to the Marion County Fairgrounds? Well, maybe. I'm sure Mike looked at it. I mean, I'm not trying to patronize Mike, but Mike's a genius when it comes to producing a show like this. You were right. We have tried a lot of things. A lot of things didn't work, but a lot of things did. And the ones that did, that's what we're trying to put into our shows this year.
You know, it's interesting too, hearing all the destinations and stuff like that, and you know, the participants, the drivers, all sorts of stuff coming out. You know, and for you, what was your expectations coming into Bloomsburg, and what was your feeling afterwards?
I didn't expect the numbers we had. I really didn't, because I don't know, lack of a better term, I don't know how Bonnier hurt the show. I'm not trying to kick anybody, you know what I mean? I heard a lot of bad things. I heard there was only 400 and some trucks last year. But like I said, with the help of Sky High Rides and some of the other clubs and the social media, over 1,000 trucks on a Friday, come on. I mean, you're right, that was back to the old days, lined up getting into the fairgrounds. And we, you know, all weekend, we didn't have too much trouble. You know, occasionally you may have this or may have that, but it was isolated. We didn't have police on every corner. You know,
Because you had Avalanche.
Avalanche was there. Yeah. He drove all, you know, Avalanche, what, 6'8", 400 pounds. He drove all the way in from Indianapolis, and that was his job to keep an eye on the local security we had. He did a good job. He's a beast.
Dude sounds like a beast.
He is a beast.
But he's one of the nicest people I ever met.
Till you piss him off.
Yeah, I'll stick to his good side.
Yeah. Don't let him get his hands around your neck. I've seen it. It's not a good time.
You know, with the history of the 4-Wheel Jamborees, what's one of the most kind of surprising venues you guys have done? I was just looking at some videos today. One of the kind of most picturesque I saw was the Essex Junction.
Essex Junction in Vermont. It was the reason we stopped going there is they built a building right in the middle of the infield. Fairgrounds built a building there. I guess one of the most picturesque for me was Pueblo, Colorado. I remember Dan Ranti. I think Dan had snake bite that weekend, and they brought in big boa constrictors to do a photo shoot. And that old boy was scared half to death. But I remember that show, the scenery. It was just a good time. Now, this year, the MOD show in Bozeman, Montana, out of this world. I mean, you're at the base of the mountains. But I've been a lot of places in the 4-Wheel Jamborees. The South Carolina show. We lost that fairgrounds because the college took the fairgrounds over and built dorms there. A lot of places we'd like to go that are no longer there.
Like, when I asked about anywhere particular new, I wouldn't mind seeing a 4-wheel drive jamboree in West Virginia or even Canada. Canadians have some 4x4 loving people, but you had Ohio, Pennsylvania, and I always thought West Virginia was popular in the 4-wheel drive community. And Florida, I know you guys did Naples, but it seems like Florida has always been a good hotbed for 4-wheel drive trucks.
I remember Naples. We went down there, and we did it at the park that did the Sippy Hole racing.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we did was bring in truckloads of dirt to fill the Sippy Hole in for the monster trucks. And that Sippy Hole was laser graded. I mean, they knew exactly how deep and, how much dirt. And that was a good race. I was trying to think of the guy, Wayne Spozanek in Tropical Thunder. I remember him down there. Wow, the show he put on. There's not, well, I'm a monster
Taking
truck.
down the fence.
Yeah, I'm a monster truck guy. I like them all. I mean, even from the county fairs that some people do. I only don't go to our shows, but I go to other shows. I like to see. I like to see what they're doing, what they're trying. The big truck show in Carlisle, we were getting feedback from what the participants there liked. I've been on the phone with some of them, but this is important to us. This is not only our livelihood. Like right now, I'm working. You may be able to see my shirt. I'm working Hoosier Park as a full-time paramedic right now. Um, you it is important that each one of us, and I will put it this way, each one of the staff takes recognition of what the participants and what the vendors want. If it's within all reason, we'll try to get that job done.
I know Cheech mentioned Canada. Alberta would be a good place for a jamboree. Like, that's where I'm from, Alberta, Canada, and we love our 4x4s. We love off-road, and we love mud, and that would be a hotbed for you guys if you ever wanted to do Canada.
Yeah, and I don't know all the legal stuff about getting all the equipment into Canada and things like that. Shouldn't be a problem now, but you go back to what type of venue, what type of sponsors, the kind of permissions you have to get. It's not out of the question.
And then another question. Sorry, Cheech. Another
That's
question
all
that I had. You've been around the sport of monster trucks for a long time. What do you think of the current day product? Seeing the stoppies, the nose wheelies, all the insane moves that these guys are pulling off in these machines these days.
Well, people may not like to hear me say this, but I'm a racing guy. The donuts, the stoppies, the backflips, all that's fun. Leave that to Monster Jam. I like the racing. I like the racing aspect of it. I like to see the guys qualify. I like to see the guys go heads up racing.
That's what was the jamborees were known for, was the high flying racing, the sub 5 second runs. The trucks were lighter. The trucks get the point A, the point B. They were trying to do everything known to man. Corporate sponsorship with Ram and Ford and Brass Eagle, you name it. It's just crazy. Let's see here.
I want to bring up Cheech. I want to bring up a memory from Bloomsburg, Hall Brothers Racing.
Go ahead.
I believe Mark was in Raminator. And we were doing, this was 4 or 5 years ago, we were doing a big opening. And Mark come up a ramp and we set a gasoline bomb off that on each side of his truck, like shooting through flames. Well, the pyro guys set it off a little early, and the flames come right up under Mark's truck, and it melted all the wrap on it. Did he ever tell you that story?
Mm-hmm.
That was fun, but he said, "Oh God, he don't want to do it again."
All the special stuff. That if you think about with the jamborees, Bigfoot. I don't know if it was either 2000, 2001, or 2002. Runte jumped over the tank, and snake bite. Once again, Mark Hall and Hall Brothers Racing and Mike Vaughters brought old monster tanks to the jamborees, which we didn't see in quite some time. Runte's big jump that he had in 2013 at Indianapolis. You guys do so many. There's so many memorable things in the monster truck world. Bigfoot's 5,000 show that they had, where it was all Bigfoot trucks.
Yeah, probably.
You have all these memorable things that's going on here, and it just, you guys bringing everything back to glory is keeping all those memories alive.
Go back to the Marion County Fairgrounds when We used to bring in special guests, to be on stage and sign autographs. I don't know if you guys go back far enough, but I remember when Heather Locklear was a nobody, and she was at the Wheel Jamboree signing autographs. So
Man.
it's man, it's enjoyable. I dig this stuff. Cheech, you have the advantage of working for Hall Brothers and being in that racing, living your dream every day. And other than when Tim throws things. I told him, I talked to those guys. I said, please don't throw nothing at me. But, you got to be living your dream. I mean, I'm 62 years old now, and I've done this since 91. I look forward to every show. I look forward to every traveling. I've done my fun stuff. I was a police officer for 20 years. I've been a paramedic almost 40. And monster trucks are my favorite, man.
And that's the same for me. Like Cheech, I always tell him, he's got one of the coolest jobs in the world. And, I get to occasionally do it. Like 2 weeks ago, I was in Edmonton working with the Team Throttle Monster guys in the arena in Edmonton. And it gave me a whole new respect for those guys that do the arenas week in and week out. That Saturday alone, I don't know what it would be in miles, but I did almost 20 kilometers and 25,000 steps in one day, just back and forth.
Arena shows are neat. I remember one up in, I think it was Northern Illinois University at DeKalb. The arena was a little different. So we literally had to crane the monster trucks in from the outside to get them down in the arena.
That always seemed like a really interesting kind of setup there.
Oh, it was fun. It was fun. I remember University of Illinois, I don't know what it is now, the State Farm Center was.
Yep, you're right.
And I remember before they remodeled it all, trying to get those trucks through the tunnel to even get in there. I mean, there's a lot of arena shows. I think Corbin, Kentucky is one of my favorites. They don't get a lot of events like that down in that area, and those fans really appreciate it.
I know this is not the Jamboree talk, but also the off product of the MOD. Do you see or talk to Mike or Lee about growing that product during first quarter?
That's all them. I have no. Your easiest answer is no, I don't. That's all Lee and Mike and Andy.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now, one question that I have is, throughout your years of doing the monster trucks at the Jamborees, and what is some of your favorite races that you got to witness, and some of the best moments that you got to witness in the industry so far during your time with the Jamborees?
You're going to ask me a specific event, but it's the drivers. For me, it's the drivers that make the race and make the show. When we used to work with Dennis Anderson, Gene Patterson, all those guys, it's meeting the drivers, telling lies, and yeah, and a lot of the side by side stuff. When you see Mark Hall and Raminator edge out Ramunition by 0.005 seconds or whatever, and I just use those two trucks as examples. Bigfoot and Snakebite. When those two used to go heads up against each other for many years, many years, Snakebite was kept secret that it was not a Bigfoot truck. And eventually, what was it, Cheech? About 7 or 8 years ago, they let it out of the bag?
Maybe longer. Probably, actually like 94.
94. But I know that, and they were, Vinny Venom. I remember Josh when he, that you're talking about a good show. We were in Aberdeen, and we were in an outdoor racetrack, and Josh was in, I believe he was in Snakebite, and he was running around the track, and I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden you see him flying over a jump, you see him flying through a split rail fence, down a hill, and you didn't know what happened to him. You totally lost the truck out of sight. And they hit the RII, killed the truck, and all of a sudden, about 5 minutes later, here comes that truck roaring right up the hill again. Some of the things like that. I mean, I've met a lot of good friends, Eric Meager, a lot of those guys, like I said earlier, Donnie Van Loo, um, the truck No Problem,
John
you know,
Moore.
John Moore. You know, I started with all those guys.
One guy that was in the chat here a little bit ago is going to be doing the announcing at Indy Jamboree for the Monster Trucks. Our good buddy Chuck Plumley, our good buddy there. And then Eric Crush has been here as a longtime Jamboree guy. I'm really looking forward to this year. I'm getting more of his old picks online. And then actually a really cool question from our buddy Kirk Nagy. Do you feel that with this current culture, could Jamboree grow to support 10 to 12 truck fields again?
Absolutely, without a question. It's all about, and I hate to say this, but it's true. It's about revenue, and it's about what you can produce within a budget. Like I said, my favorite would be going back to qualifying. You got to qualify to get in the show. If you don't qualify enough, you go home or you become a show truck.
Yeah, that's true. Like back in the day, and have the Monster Corral. It's
Yep.
kind of cool. Kind of cool though, having Bursey and all them during the PA Mountain Monster. We had them last week, and having their display there and everything like that was, I thought, was pretty cool.
One of my memories that you asked for, Lima, Ohio, '93. If you remember, between turns 1 and 2 on the outside of the track, we had about 17, 18 monster trucks lined up, and they were qualifying to get in the show. I remember that like the back of my hand.
Because back in the day, I think you had, 10 trucks in the show, but you had 2 qualifying open spots, and you had people qualifying just to make the field. So when you had Trucks and Tractor Power on TNN, and you had 2 shows at Canfield, one show shows some, like the Big Boss, and then the next show shows No Problem. Those trucks are qualifying to make it to the field.
Absolutely. And it was fun. I mean, it was fun. I don't know how much for the drivers, but for the spectator point of view, watching trucks trying to fight to get in the show, I like that idea.
Another question that I have is, with having, the Penda Point series on TNN, broadcasted even up here into Canada, how was that for you guys having that exposure for the Jamborees in the 90s?
It's only positive. I mean, I've seen a lot of comments of, "Oh, you're the guys that used to run the Penda Point series," and then we get to talking about Army and Gary Lee and Trucks and Tractor Power. It's only positive that they remember us from that.
And a lot of people are agreeing with you about the ideas for racing and stuff like that. But I think in this process, we all have big minds and stuff like that. But like you said on your plan, saying year 1, the participants, year 2, the vendors, year 3, the fans. It's going to take some time, but seeing maybe in the good next 4 to 5, 6 years, I think this is going to be a product where it will be back to its glorified ways.
I don't think it's going to take that long.
No.
I think if we have a positive Indianapolis, I think Bloomsburg will be bigger next year. And as long as the staff, long as we do right, for lack of a better term, and build these shows, there's nowhere to go but up.
Another moment I wanted to bring up in the Penda history, which I was able to be at the fairgrounds for, is Canfield, 95. Rampage, that infamous run where he breaks off the rear wheel, he's powering through it. What do you remember from that run in particular, and how kind of insane that moment was?
You're going to laugh, but I don't remember that run. I was on the outside that time. I wasn't doing the competition announcing. I was on the other stage that year.
Oh man, that moment's another one that's just very infamous in the Penda kind of lore, I'd say.
I was trying to remember. and it may have been Canfield, that one of the trucks broke loose one year and landed right on top of a shed. And I don't. That may have.
That was Gene in Snakebite. What year was that, Cheech? It was Maple Grove.
1991, Maple Grove, Wisconsin.
Daggone, Cheech.
I think.
You got a cheat sheet? You got a cheat sheet, or is that just your mind?
Nah.
I remember
Union Grove.
Union Grove, Wisconsin.
1991.
Couple years before I was there, but a lot of pictures were taken of that event. See, back when I started in the operations department in '93, the same year Mike Moore started as an accountant, we had to study. We had to study the past. Our operations manager, Steve Pearson, we called it the Bible. And we had to study everything about past shows, what they did, what they looked like. And golly, that's an old picture. General Tire.
I brought it up, and we'll quickly watch it. I have dual monitors. I have a big old setup here. So, yeah, this was the moment that you were talking about.
Scott Stevens is trying to get a monkey off his back. He's been on his head a whole lot this year. So we're going to have to be watching him. But right now, all
Fred
eyes
Schaefer.
on the new truck, the Snakebite. And speaking of eyes on, look what happened earlier today.
This was in qualifying. He's against the clock right now, and he gets in trouble off that second jump, the second set of cars. But watch him power out.
Throttle up, pulls it out.
But right here, he has no room to power out. He can't use the throttle. Look what happened.
That's the short area we're talking about. If he had had
a lot of these places had very short shut-off areas.
He just had to just roll with it. Speaking of rolling, this guy is on a roll. You like Chevrolet, you got to know and love Fred Schaefer.
Well, Fred Schaefer is the fast qualifier, which means he gets lane choice. These drivers do not like the lane that Snakebite is running in right now.
Right here.
And it's all Fred Schaefer, Army.
What a clean run. Oh, here we go again.
Snakebite's in trouble through the hydrant barrier, and look at that. Is anybody in the building?
The Story's building at the end of the
right
track.
there.
Gary,
And I love Army Armstrong's commentary. Here we go again. Like, there was no one that could commentate a monster truck event like Army Armstrong.
You're absolutely right. He was fantastic to work with. We brought him back in Bloomsburg. The late teens probably, and I happened to be his roommate that weekend, and just to listen to his stories.
Man, well, for me, this is my last question for tonight's episode, but a lot of people excited about what's going on, and what will. You see the numbers, you see everything in the atmosphere and everything like that, but what would you try to tell people that are on the fence on going to the Jamboree, especially in Indy?
If you've not been before, you need to come see it. If you've been there before and you were disappointed in the last few years, come back home to us. You won't be disappointed this year.
And then my last question, who do you think is going to come out on top in racing in Indy?
Mark Hall. And not because Cheech is there, but Mark Hall. I believe Raminator will. Yeah.
It's just weird, like the atmosphere of the Jamboree. Hey, think about this though. On a positive note, there's 3 Hall trucks going to be there. So you have Mark Hall, then Kurt in a Hall truck, and you have Tim Hall Jr. So it's a all good time. So, that'd be pretty cool to see. But, it's just something weird. It's something different at the Jamborees with, the Raminator. You see a Monster Jam and stuff like that, and we do our thing. But it just seems like there's a 6th gear in those trucks, especially Mark's trucks, that brought back that Bloomsburg, brought back the fear of trucks need to bring their lunch bag.
That's it.
If they have to line up against both trucks in that general time frame. But it's all good fun though, because we all connect with everyone. It's a blast and a good time.
I have a question for you, Cheech.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, here it comes. What would it be like for you to race in one of the jamborees?
Well, I mean, as of right now, hopefully that'd be a Tim Hall question. In the past they have had for three trucks there. One sponsored by General Tire. Hopefully, General Tire bites the bait and come back to the four-wheel drive jamborees that they've been helping out for such a long time. Um, it's just gonna take time. I need to get more seat time behind the wheel. All it is just time management, and whenever the bosses can pull the trigger and say, okay, for me, I wish I could do the jamborees. I wish I could do all the big stuff just to get my seat time and just get my racing game a little bit better. Kind of hard to improve when you're every single time you're racing, you're going kind of blind. But it takes time for that. So I will pursue what I need to pursue, and one day I'll be behind the wheel of a truck and one of their trucks, and line up with the best in the jamboree and have some fun.
Get that take out of the Hall of Fame and drive that thing.
Yeah, I'll beat. They don't want me to because I'll win.
Hey, I can see Mark Holland Raminator, Curtin Ramunition, and Dan at Chichagosh in Executioner. I could see that one day.
In heavy metal. I'll break my back for the fans in that tank.
You'll be like Mike Tyson after the interview. I broke my back.
My back is broke.
There's one for sale in the industry right now, Cheech.
There's a few of them.
A little over $40,000. We can put you in one.
Hey, he's gonna fight Colton Kaiser for that first.
Yeah.
Well, no, there is also Fast Tracks, which is above that, and then you got Andy Hoffman's
Night
truck.
Stalker.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
If Colton Kaiser doesn't get that first. What would it be to have Colton come to the jamborees eventually again, the hometown indie boy?
Richie, his dad's a good friend of mine. It's not out of the question. We worked, Lee, I should say, not we. Lee worked very hard at getting this lineup. He's had a lot of people send resumes to him wanting to be at the jamborees. It's totally his and Mike's decision.
Yeah, I hear that. Is there any social media people can follow the jamborees or even yourself?
Oh, Four Wheel Jamboree. You can go to all the websites. Heck, if you look my name up on Facebook and just friend me up, yeah, I'll chat at you. But yeah, go to the Four Wheel Jamboree websites. You can find out all the information you need there.
Well, Joe, thank you for coming on the
thanks.
show and talking everything jamborees. I was fortunate to go to one in 2022, and I definitely want to come back to one hopefully next year. It's a long trek from Canada, but I definitely want to make it up there and see what you guys are doing with the jamborees compared to when I went in 2022.
You'll see a lot of difference.
And then next week's guest is going to be Tim Tyson, the FMX rider Tim Tyson. TJ Tiffany has a movie that he's helping out in California as a stunt double, so he's going to be pretty busy. But Tim Tyson's going to be on. Dyson.
Dyson, Dyson like the vacuum.
Yeah, Dyson will be on next week and talk about FMX.
Cool. I hope everybody continues to listen to Crush This. It's fun and it's informative at the same time.
It's a good time.
Thank you for that, Joe. We've been doing this for almost 10 years. I think next year's our 10-year anniversary. And, we've had a lot of ups and downs, but we love doing this. We're, first and foremost, we're fans of the sport. I
got an idea for you.
Yeah.
Come to one of our shows, do a tape version of your show where you can get all the drivers and everything there.
I already mentioned it to Tim about that. That's something we could probably do. He mentioned about it doing it at Indy, but I'll be gone at the Oklahoma State Fair, So I was thinking about doing it for next Bloomsburg show and take a couple hours out, interview drivers, have you as a co-host, Joe, and just talk and BS.
Well, you've seen how big my stage is there.
Oh yeah, that's
So
a huge stage.
there's a lot of room to do a show right up there on stage.
Maybe
Hey.
if I could get a sponsor and get a video board.
Here we go, you and your sponsors.
Yeah, get a video.
Hey,
a video board.
what about getting a Canadian up there, eh?
Yeah, hey, why don't you bring about $100,000 with you, and we'll name the show after you.
There we go, Brad.
Crush this 4-wheel jamboree.
Brad's 4-Wheel Jamboree.
The Canucker 4-wheel jamboree.
That's it. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you
Joe.
very much. Enjoy the horse racing.
Well, I don't even. It looks like we're on race 8, and I've got 13 to go. So we got it 13 total.
Almost
I appreciate
there.
you guys. I'll talk to
Thank you again.
Watch you next week.
Awesome.
Same
Thank
time,
you.
Tuesdays
again.
at 8.
Oh,
See y'all.
definitely. See
Bye.
Thank you again. See ya.
Bye.
Man,
So
that
that
was
was Joe with the 4-wheel jamboree. It was awesome to have him on, and hopefully next year I'll be able to either get to Bloomsburg or Indy. But
You have to make it to the Hall of Fame for once.
I know. That one's gonna be a hard one because that's the busy time for the oil field industry. But I'm gonna definitely try. But I wanted to bring up what my experience in Edmonton. I didn't get to last week. Went down there, worked with the Team Throttle Boys. You had Carson Williams, who used to work for. I was wondering what that was. You had Carson Williams, who was its first Monster Jam event, driving Monster Jam Rottweiler. Joe Uri in Earthshaker. Tim Hall Jr., the unofficial other Hall brother, driving Jurassic Attack, and Devin Winfield in Velociraptor. Had some breakage over the weekend. Joe in Earthshaker didn't have the best weekend. That's the face my wife makes at me whenever I put on monster trucks on the TV. She's like, really?
I love you.
Again? Had some problems with Earthshaker. Carson got his first ever timed racing win, so that was cool to see. And just a good weekend with those boys. Tim actually debuted a new Jurassic Attack scheme this past weekend, an all blue one, so it was cool to see. And And then tomorrow night, Champaign, Illinois, Dan Cheech will tear up the track against the other two Hall Brothers trucks and two of Jamie Garner's trucks. And I expect big things out of you tomorrow night, Cheech.
Okay.
And the guys, thank you for all the love and support, all the 5-star likes and reviews on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts. We love it, guys. Next year is our 10th anniversary of the podcast, and we have some big plans. We're going to be doing some new stuff for the podcast. We're still going to have David Lee as our intro, but working on some new ideas for the intro. And,
it's also the 10th season for Back Channel, too.
Yep, 10th season for Back Channel. So we're celebrating all that together. Back Channel is one of our biggest supporters. So is Colby Marshall with MTRC, who does our intro video and helps us out with a lot of that kind of stuff. Thank you to Jay Concepts, everybody that supports us. This has been amazing that we still can do this even 10 years later. And we love and support. We love to support you guys. It's an awesome journey that we're on. And any last words for you there, Cheech? Any social media that people can follow the Flying Panda on?
Facebook, Instagram, MT_Dan_28. On Snapchat, Dan_10. Instagram, like I said. TikTok, I've been doing a lot of TikToks. Let's see here. Follow the RC page on Facebook and Instagram. Go follow Crush This on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, anywhere in Canada, .ca. Anywhere you guys want to go, we could go. When that open sign, Crush This is open. I turn it off as soon as the show's over with.
Which I think that sign is dope. I still need to have a bit of a background. I'm gonna figure something.
What happened to your on-air one?
It was on the side of right here. It fell off, and I'm gonna remount it somewhere back here. I want to get a better one. It was kind of a cheaply made one I got off of Amazon, just cheap. So I want a better one.
Do you guys have like a Hobby Lobby?
No, we don't. Unfortunately, trust me. If we had a Hobby Lobby, me and my wife would be broke because she would spend all of our money there. Okay,
Like IKEA.
Closest IKEA is 4.5 hours away in Edmonton. But we're getting a Firehouse subs, and I'm happy about it because Firehouse is good. But
they support. Oh man.
Big update for me. I have just started on a new medication. If people have heard of it, Ozempic. I mentioned in the beginning, I'm down 45 pounds since last year. So that's a big milestone for me. And yeah, big moves happening. This big guy is slimming down. Where did you get those, dude?
They're stress relief balls I got for my birthday.
Ah.
The little guy bounced behind the desk, so he's gone.
You'll get him again. But guys, follow me at the Only Monster Chuckanucker on Instagram, Facebook, just Bradley Shaw, and you can check all of my zany adventures. If you want to follow me on Instagram or Snapchat, I think it's Bradshaw Design 01. See all the kind of cool stuff I do at work. Whether it be getting stuck in a foot of mud with a 40-ton picker and a trailer full of stuff, or just shenanigans. Cheech has gone full ADHD brain right now. That's me on a daily basis. But guys, thank you for all the love. Check up on your friends and family. Mental health is very important. If you're struggling or going through anything, please reach out to someone. I was struggling last week. I reached out to Cheech, and he was helping me through the loss of my grandmother, and all that stuff. And as
practice what you preach, right?
Yep. And that is the truth. And as Cheech always says, get your pets spayed or neutered.
Huh?
You would say that from time to time.
I do?
Yeah.
Yeah, get your pets spayed and neutered. You don't want no more raccoons.
And guys, next week is Tim Dyson, freestyle motocross guy. And as we always say, since day one, keep the rubber side down and the shiny side up, everybody. Peace.